Welcome to the Plant-Based Podcast. Did you know that plants are truly amazing? Not only can you grow them and eat them, you can also wear them, drink them, nourish your skin with them, and so much more. Let Ellen and Michael inspire you to love plants as much as they do, as they chat with the movers and shakers in this wonderful plant-based world. So, let's dig in.
Series 9 is brought to you with Lava Light. Whether you're a novice gardener, specialist grower, or houseplant enthusiast, Lava Light can help you to nourish and protect your plants all year round. The collection comprises of 8 different horticultural growing media and pest control products, with each continually offering the same natural benefits from thermal protection and moisture retention to soil conditioning and continued nutrient boosts. Derived from volcanic deposits, Lava Light is completely natural and sustainable. Look out for it online and in your local gardening stores.
So if you love maples, you are listening to the right episode, because last month I went to the Charlotte Gardening Club to a talk by Matt and Tim from Mr. Maple. It was so good, we just had to invite them here onto the Plant-Based Podcast. So Mr. Maple produces the largest selection of Japanese maples in the US.
Yes, Matt and Tim and their team, they graft and propagate 1,000 different selections of Japanese maples, and they've even traveled to Japan in the name of maples. And they're here today to advise us on growing acers and maples, and they're also going to give us their top 10. There is a top 20, but I think we've only got time for their top 10. I think this is going to be a really, really good podcast. I'd like to welcome you boys to the podcast today. Hey.
Oh, thanks so much for having us. I'm Matt. This is my brother, Tim.
Hey, everybody. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be here.
I have to say also, I'm going to have to take a photograph of the screen because your setup is really cool. Also, the lovely picture behind you with the maple leaf, and your brothers, aren't you? But one's in blue and one's in red. It's like you're completely opposite.
we try to compliment each other in our business. We're brothers, but we do get along. So. But we fight like brothers, so we pair well together.
No, we really have different personalities that work really well to each other, and everything that I'm not good at, Matt's good at, and everything he's not good at, I'm good at. So it works well.
Cool.
That's very good. So we're hoping that when we get to the top 10, you're not going to disagree on any of them.
Oh, of course.
Of course you will. Well, we're super pleased to have you here, and like I said before, I really enjoyed your talk, but just, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your background, how Mr. Maple has come about, your love for maples. We're going to just let you go for it.
Oh, thanks so much. We're a small family business here in Western North Carolina, and we do mail order all over the United States. Our dad did this kind of as a hobby, and Tim and I kind of took his hobby and went a little crazy with it. So Dad sold maples at local tailgates, and we kind of took it and turned it into a little bit more of a business. And we're obsessed plant hoarders, so that's how we end up with so many different varieties.
Yeah, and the thing that's unique about us is we're collectors at heart. I mean, we love plants. We're nurserymen, but we love Japanese maples. And so we've traveled all over the United States, all over the world, seeking out the most interesting and most unique Japanese maples. So we do some of the more common varieties of your red uprights and red lace leaves, but then we really focus on the things that are unique and the things that are different, and the things that are really exceptional, that really stand out from a lot that's out there when it comes to Japanese maples.
Mm-hmm.
So you've expanded the business, if you like, from selling, at the back of a truck, to online, to all across the US. What did your family think about this?
Oh, at first my dad was pretty nervous. He was like, for him, it was just a backyard operation, and he sold at tailgates. So he was like, really, both my sons are going to do this? So he's super nervous at first, but our parents couldn't be more supportive of what we do. They love this. We really enjoy it. We kind of get a little crazy with it. We're accused of thinking big sometimes, so we're always kind of on to the next
thing. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah. We really enjoy it, though. It's a good excuse for us, and we've really been blessed to get to travel and go to some really cool places with it. And it's opened up a lot of really fun doors. So I think as it continued to grow, they've gotten more and more excited about it as well.
It's amazing that Japanese maples are this phenomena that's around the world. And Dad really started getting into it and doing it really locally. And when we sort of took his passion for it, well, we grew from him and then started realizing there's Japanese maples in the UK. There's Japanese maples in Japan. There's Japanese maples in Australia. It's a worldwide phenomenon that people love Japanese maples. And then we start realizing there's people who are selecting these trees all over the world. And we just got passionate about it because of that. I know Dad, whenever we first started, Dad was just like, guys, this is, we're doing this to put money in the boat to go fishing. and he never thought that we could grow it so that Matt and I could both do this as a living. And we've been blessed. I mean, we've got a staff of almost 25 people here at Mr. Maple.
Wow. That's amazing. And
we stay nonstop shipping all around the United States, and really been blessed to grow our business to where it is today.
Mm-hmm.
I hope your dad has firmly got his feet up now as well.
All right. We've got him retired. He plays with the grandbabies. We got him a truck last year. He's pretty excited about that. We repaid him because we put too many miles on his truck, so we got him a new truck, and he's thrilled these days. He's enjoying retirement.
And we know you've traveled quite a bit, because obviously it's nice to see new varieties, different ones that you haven't seen before, more unusual ones, but also to learn how the maple, the Acer, is used in different folklore and kind of in day-to-day kind of use. And Japan is somewhere that I know you guys have traveled, and you must have found out tons about Acers when you were there.
Yeah, we got to be on a TV show about Japanese maples a couple years ago. We'd been to Japan before that on our own. And we drive whenever we're in Japan, so we kind of go crazy and go explore, the hillside. We want to get back and get lost and look at, maples in their native habitat and just kind of really get engulfed in it that way. But we were on a TV show talking about maples too, and it really opened up some cool doors because we got to go around and, really just have the best of all the fall color. When you go to the TV show, you kind of get a little spoiled, but we got to see some of the best things in fall color, and they kind of captured us reacting to all these cool plants. One of the things we got to do was we got to travel with our friend Nakata-san to his place and kind of look at how maples were growing natively there. So he took us back into the wild and specifically explained kind of how trees were growing in their native habitat. And then we went back to his nursery and did a little thing where we recreated a garden that kind of mimicked some of that. So we've kind of done some really cool stuff like that. That was a great experience.
Our very first trip to Japan, I convinced Matt that we needed to drive. And on our trip,
we don't speak fluent Japanese.
We don't speak Japanese. We drove over 3,000 miles, 5,000 kilometers, all over Japan, and had a blast. Yeah. And then we came back and we were like, man, I really wish we could go back to Japan. And we got an email that said, would you like to go to Japan? And Matt was like, this must be a joke, because we were just talking about how great it'd be to go back to Japan.
Yeah.
And I just replied back, yes. And it was Tokyo TV. And they flew us out to Japan. They went around and took us to so many amazing things. And one of the funny things they did was they had us make maple tempura. And maple tempura is fried maple leaves. And in Japan, they do this as like a treat. They
didn't know Tim's like the worst cook on the planet. So, wrong person to do this.
So they make everything campy on Japanese television. And they had me, when they came to the United States, they had me go in and tried my best at cooking fried maple tempura. And I didn't know what I was doing. I took this huge
pancake.
I took this huge Japanese maple leaf of an Acer japonicum and, tried to make like a maple pancake kind of thing. And I was like, Matt took a bite of it. He's like, this is disgusting.
Yeah. Then basically they cut to like us and Mino, and we went with this expert who makes maple tempura. And we learned how to do it correctly. And that was really cool too. I mean, it was just a fun little side thing we did, but we learned so many cool things about, where maples are at. And we'd love to get back to Japan too. We're hoping to do some upcoming trips again. I mean, it's one of our places to go, but we go all over to study maples.
It really surprised me on this trip how they made the maple tempura though. I mean, they're basically frying like this cookie batter around a maple leaf and then selling that as treats. And they take this maple tempura and they basically make the maple leaf sit in this batter for so long that there's not much of a maple leaf, but it's the shape.
Right. You don't really get too much taste. Like that's the thing. It's actually done more for the shape than the taste. By the time you get to it, it's all nice, like sugar cookie almost.
But traveling and's been amazing. I mean, we got to go visit Masayoshi Yano, he's in charge of World Maple Park. and he has over 1,400 different varieties of Japanese maples in Japan. He wrote a book that's half in Japanese and half in English.
Cool.
And
really cool experiences. We were actually filming and we were doing some B-roll that day, and we were Google translating the brochure there with Nakata-san, and it said we are less than an hour drive from the national treasure tree of Japan. We're like, hey, what's this all about? I kind of had an idea already. And Nakata-san lit up. He's like, I'll take you there while they're shooting B-roll. It's raining tomorrow and we'll go out there. Well, there was a 400-year-old maple. And I mean, it's just cool to get to stand next to a Japanese maple. It's 400 years old.
It's twisting and contorting.
Yeah, it's a huge weeping form. And I mean, just kind of one of those things that just makes your whole experience of the trip. I mean, so yeah, there's so many cool things we've got to do.
And everyone in Japan, when we went and visited, were so friendly, so kind.
Yeah.
And they would share all their knowledge and everything with us. And I mean, it was everything we could do we would spend hours just in one place just sitting there talking about plants.
I'm not going to lie, the TV show spoils you. It was like, you're there 18 days and like 12 of that's on the TV show.
18 days.
Like,
Wow.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've never been to Japan personally, but I've always wanted to go to see like the cherry blossoms. Now I want to go to see all of the maples as well.
Maples are amazing. Yeah.
The temples around Kyoto in fall color. I mean, it just is amazing, especially when you have somebody with the TV show running in front of you.
I think it's spoiled. They picked all the best spots.
They picked all the best spots.
Yeah.
If it's not perfect fall color, you're not going to see it. And so
they knew exactly where to take you for sure.
Uh-huh.
So let's talk about maples for listeners at home to get some tips. First of all, I know that you're going to say yes, but really, is a maple a worthwhile investment?
Oh, for sure. So Japanese maples are one of those plants that kind of adds value to your landscape. I mean, many times here where we're at, they'll even be listed on people's real estate. I mean, it's one of those plants that just grows in value with time. And it really is something that's worthwhile. It's one of those plants you can't skip on the best parts of your garden. So like you can skip in some areas, but you want some plants that kind of define your yard and make it, the structure of it. And I would encourage people to use a maple as one of the more prominent pieces. And it's definitely one of those plants that brings that kind of ever-changing beauty from spring color to summer interest to fall when they really light up. And then a lot of them actually have really nice structural interest. Even though they're deciduous, they're going to have great structural interest in the winter months as well. So, yeah, I would say it's definitely one of those plants to invest in, to have as one of your main pieces there in your garden.
And one of the best things about Japanese maples is there's so much variety. And so, I mean, variety is the flavor of life. And you can go through and select something that's special that you like, that's very unique and is unique to your yard. I mean, we have over 1,000 varieties of Japanese maples here at our nursery. And there's plenty of Japanese maple experts all around the world. I know there's plenty in Europe as well. And you can find and select something that's very unique, very different, and is extremely beautiful. And there's so many ones that are large Japanese maples to extremely small miniatures. And so there's a Japanese maple for every spot in the yard, but there's also a Japanese maple that can really fit and really make your unique garden really special.
People are often kind of intimidated. They think that because they look delicate or maybe more dainty, that they might be difficult to grow, but maples are a super easy plant to grow. I mean, one of the keys is to make sure you have good drainage. They don't want to be in boggy or wet feet. And the trees that I see, especially in our area, that look the best are the ones that people have let them grow. And the ones that get a little too much love, they get too much fertilizer and too much water. Those might not look so good. But the trees they've kind of just let develop their own beauty, those tend to look amazing. So I tell people, don't worry if you have a green thumb. It's something you can grow as long as you can. As long as you can make sure the basic steps are done when you plant it. Let it do its thing.
So more. Hey, Michael. You've got one in your garden, Michael, haven't you?
Well, I've got one. It's lovely. It's just like an Atropurpureum, quite a normal one, and it gives me the most amazing autumn color. But I have to complain because the autumn color, it goes this lovely auburn red, and they only last for like about 2-3 days. I really want the autumn color to last longer, but that's just, you can't help that, right?
It can be conditional. It's going to be a little faster. The hotter zones are going to be a little faster than most. For us, we're in Western North Carolina. We're typically 3 to 4 weeks. This season was a little faster than most. I mean, so it can vary depending on, those temperatures you're getting to.
And I will say that certain Japanese maples give better fall color than others. And so like some of the,
this is amazing color, but it's not there for long. But
and some of the Japanese maples will last for a really long time. So that does vary by cultivar.
Yeah, it may be more like a seedling versus a grafted name variety too. So if you pick a variety like something like Osakazuki is a classic, brilliant, bright red that was selected for fall color. And that's probably going to outperform, a more traditional seedling or something like that. So one that's selected for that may be a better choice.
Okay. And in terms of the growing then, you talked about feeding. I imagine that is more important when you're growing in a container as well, because of course, maples are perfectly suitable for containers, balconies. Can you run us through like what you would feed them with, what type of soil as well? Because I know they have a bit of a preference for acid as well. And also kind of the speed of growth, because a lot of people choose a Japanese maple because it is slow growing. So it kind of almost miniaturizes, but that must vary by variety, right?
Oh, good bit. I'll let you cover some of the fertilizer, but I'll get into the size ranges. I mean, we have everything from 2 to 3 feet to 30 feet in size in a 10-year period. So we always try to give a time frame for sizes because there's interesting dwarf varieties. Most of your cascading types are going to be more of a low cascading type umbrella, and they're not going to get too big. So in general, those are going to be a little more compact for most folks and what people are looking for a container or smaller type. There's some uprights that we do like Cereus that get out there quite quickly. So there are some that can kind of, break the mold for speed. But we try to just go low on the fertilizer amount. We do preach moderation there.
Yeah, moderation is the key. But also, I can't mention growing a tree in a container without talking about making sure you have good drainage. I mean, good drainage is key. It's more important than the type of the soil because Japanese maples, they'll actually grow in almost any soil you put them in. They do like more on the acidic side if possible, but most potting soils are more on that neutral side. And so most potting soils will work perfectly for a Japanese maple, but good drainage is the key for the pot. And that continues not just in the soil itself, but also through the pot. Because if you water it, you don't want it to just be sitting and getting wet feet. That's the biggest mistake we see when people grow a Japanese maple in a container.
The saucer of death.
Yeah, those saucers underneath the pot, they're really bad for Japanese maples because you just want it to flow all the way through and drain all the way out.
Yeah. Now, as far as fertilizers go, that you guys know this, but for the listeners, that first number is the nitrogen. We try to go low on the nitrogen. That really is the main mistake people make with the Japanese maples, are over fertilizing them. We could get a large tree quickly, but it wouldn't be a healthy tree because it wouldn't handle the winters. It would break down quicker. It would have been grown too quickly to be efficiently taking up energy. So we try to go lower on that nitrogen. We recommend a 15 or lower on that first number. And that'll give you a more balanced take on the maple. Now we're in Western North Carolina here. We cut off all of our fertilizing after May, and we find that helps our trees winter better, and they're not staying active. Because some of these granulated mixes, when people put them out, it could say a 180-day release. And we'll always let people know you don't want to be putting that out in October because you're going to keep your tree active, into those winter months when it could be pretty cold. And
that could cause some damage, but it can also cause you to not have as good a fall color as well, because that fresh new growth is always pushing a lot of chlorophyll into the leaves, and it's not shutting down to give you the fall color that you can get out of a Japanese maple.
This makes sense. I have to tell you something. Right, I'm gonna confess something based upon what you were saying when you done your talk at the Charlotte Gardening Club. So you done your top 20 at the time, and I was sitting here thinking, you're never ever going to say the one I've got. I've got one growing in a container on a balcony. Okay, I'm going to tell you what one it is in a minute. You might be able to guess. It was the only one I could get hold of, having not heard about you pre-getting it. It's in a container. It got moved around. And I went back to the UK in the summer, and it got moved into full sun. And when I came back, it was as crisp could be. And so that didn't go down very well. But also, it is called Bloodgood. It's like the one, isn't it, that everyone has and can get everywhere. Yeah. So first of all, there's a million other varieties, which we're going to go through your top 10. But the sunshade thing, can you tell us a little bit about that? Like caring for them, where they should be planted with regards to the aspect?
Yeah, I mean, the easy answer that drives everybody crazy is early morning sun, late day shades, like perfect. So if you can get early morning sun, late day shade conditions, you typically pick up those red colors and some of the redder ones. You're protecting, any of the variegated ones from late day shade. Then that's the easiest answer. But all gardeners don't have a perfect yard that's all early morning sun, late day shade. So we do a ton of trees that can go in, full sun, hotter conditions. It depends a little bit on the environment because we do ship all over the United States. So all full sun conditions aren't created equally. I mean, you can definitely have full sun in Texas is going to be a lot different than full sun in Maryland for our customers. But In general, there's some that can go into a lot higher zones for full sun exposures, and there's some selection specifically made for kind of higher heat conditions.
But one thing to keep in mind is full sun in the ground where the plant can take care of itself is very different from full sun in a container, because full sun in a container requires a lot more care because you're having to give it the water and nutrients it needs in that pot, where in the ground it can start taking care of itself.
Right. Yeah.
We're kind of in the south here of the United States, and so we're kind of right on the cusp where it starts to get a lot warmer. So a lot of our customers south of us have to be real conscious that their containers don't hold a lot of residual heat, like the pot itself doesn't get too hot. And so I always try to tell, the hotter zones, make sure to get your pot into a little bit more shade conditions, especially if you can late day. Really, it depends on the variety. I mean, in general, the more pink or white you have on your Japanese maple, the more you're going to have to give it some protection from the sun. So if it's got a lot of pink or white variegation, those are going to need more late day shade typically. There's a ton of great selections like Fire Glow or Emperor One that are very sun tolerant.
And they look just like the blood good that you got. Yeah. They look just like the blood good that you got, but they're a little more heat tolerant, so they can handle a little more sunlight if that's the condition that you're looking for in your garden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the blood good hasn't fared very well. And I wanted it for ages. Like, I've been looking for a really cool Acers. Like, I decided I wanted to have, like, there is shade on the balcony. Like, there's plenty of shade. And we can put it in a place where there's morning sun and afternoon shade. It's just it got kind of moved around when I wasn't here. And I came back and all the leaves were, like, all crisped up. And I was like, oh, my gosh.
Someone was in big trouble.
Someone was in trouble. Yes. Anyway.
Hey, before we go on and talk about your top 10, I just want to show, I don't know if you know a company in Holland called Van Sonnenkoot.
Oh, yeah. We're good friends of ours. He's been here.
Jim Koot.
He's visited us here before.
Yeah. He's so great. And they're probably the main specialist kind of for wholesale Acers in Europe, I would say. Like, a lot of people use them. They've got a great range. They've got the one that trails, is it Ryusen? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had it on their trials in a hanging basket. Look at that for a hanging basket Acer.
Nice. Yeah. We actually did a YouTube video recently about hanging basket maples as well. It's kind of a fun trend going on right now. Is the
it's really cool.
Japanese maples and hanging baskets.
We actually first saw it at Kobayashi Momiji Inn in Japan.
Yeah,
and they were not only doing it as a straight hanging basket, but they were doing the topsy turvy, where the tree is growing from the bottom of the pot and cascading down below. And then they're using on top. Oh. And then basically the plant is growing straight down. And after years of growing it in this upside down pot, you can flip the tree over, crack the pot, flip the tree over, and the tree is staked almost naturally, all of the branches rather than just one straight stake.
That's so cool. That's
such a unique way to grow a Japanese maple for sure.
And of course, I guess those the hanging ones are often put on a stem as a waterfall as well, aren't they? So.
Yeah, we do a whole series of those. We've actually selected several ourselves of that, like Ryusen style Japanese maple. And so we've got a huge collection of those here that we do.
So you're selecting new varieties as well?
We do. Yeah, we do a little bit of that. I mean, it's, we jokingly call it our Area 51 collection. That's what we call our area where we hide all our stuff. And that's because when we were young and we would go to garden shows, our dad might sell the one seedling we wanted to propagate. And so it became quickly the Area 51. We went and hid it all in the hidden area. So people didn't come in or out of there and buy anything.
You had to have special clearance to go into Area 51.
Yeah, we do quite a bit of selecting, and we just jokingly call it our Area 51 collection. But we've probably named about, I'd say, 15 to 20 trees.
Oh, wicked.
Oh my gosh, sorry. Acers growing in a hanging basket is like the best thing ever. I know you've done a photograph of it before, but can you imagine? Like, you see, especially here in North Carolina, lots of ferns growing out of hanging baskets, like on porches and stuff. You'd have Acers. That is so cool.
It's gotten really popular. We did a little instructional video on how to do it on our YouTube channel, but we were picking like some yellow forms and some forms with different style foliage and just some really unique types that you could, we kind of did a whole thing on like these types lend themselves very well to kind of hanging down below the basket style, and then kind of how to pick a basket for that. So you're not picking something that you can't change out long term, because eventually we'll outgrow that. And so you want to have a plan to transition it to the ground or in a bigger pot. But yeah, it's a great way to do it. It's getting really popular too. It's a fun trend right now for Japanese maples.
If you're looking to grow a Japanese maple in a hanging basket, there's all different types of Japanese maples, and you're going to look for one that's got that heavily cascading habit. One like Ryusen, that's a perfect example. There's also some golden forms of Ryusen. I think in Europe, there's one called Cascade Gold. We've got one in the United States called Dragon Master and another one called Golden Falls. And both of those are weeping yellow, extremely cascading forms, just like the Ryusin. And so you get yellow color on the foliage, but that extremely cascading habit where it's just drooping straight down. And that really is a great way. I mean, that extremely cascading habit, I think, is essential when you're looking for a hanging basket Japanese maple.
We've got customers that grow them like ferns. I mean, they've got 6 or 7 of them on the porch, and they're getting all this aesthetic of the foliage as well as the fall color changes there, it's a fun, unique way to change it up.
Yeah. Well, I've always been obsessed with what is new and different, and I'm going to ask you your top 10. But first of all, I'm just wondering, it might be useful for listeners. Is there any Acer at all that is like the best one for bonsai as a houseplant? Like, or is there one that will stay small naturally, for people that have an Acer as a houseplant instead?
Sure. In general, maples don't like to be indoors.
No.
They can be. It can be done. I always joke, it's like driving a car with your feet. You could do it, but don't make it a good idea. Like, it could work. But the problem is they do need this dormancy period. So they do need this period of time where they drop leaf completely. I've had customers that grew maples in Miami, and what would happen is eventually they would have a forced dormancy. So they would just drop leaf. In fact, we have a lot of customers in Hawaii, believe it or not. But they have this period of time where they'll actually just drop leaf completely if they're staying in too hot of a zone. And so indoors can be a bit tricky. It certainly can be done, but it requires a lot of steps. And it is also best if you can get it outside during certain time periods. Now, that said, Makawa Yatsubusa is very popular for bonsai. It's a dwarf dense form that's real tightly shingled layering, and that's Makawa Yatsubusa. It's one of the most popular and most durable for bonsai.
And is probably one of our top 10.
Yeah, well, you can't say it now. You have to fill that space with sorry about that. Just also a quick question. We will get to the top 10 eventually about pruning. Do they need much pruning at all? How to care for them in that way?
That's an excellent question. Pruning Japanese maples is something that you can do to accentuate their shape. Now, every Japanese maple has a different shape, and it's important to know the natural shape that your tree's gonna make. And then the best way to prune is to prune to accentuate that shape, to really make it unique and different. We don't want to prune them all the same way, or all these trees are going to look the same. I mean, shape is a key component on Japanese maples differences. I mean, some have upright arching habits, some have weeping habits. Some go straight up and are extremely columnar. And so pruning is something that you can do to accentuate the shape, but it's something that's not required. And pruning Japanese maples, you don't have to prune them at all. But if you want to prune because there's a branch you don't like, prune it out. If you want to prune to keep a tree smaller, you can prune it. But you don't have to prune a Japanese maple just to prune a Japanese maple. Typically, pruning a Japanese maple is going to promote growth. And so if you're trying to keep a tree smaller, unless it's in a container, if you're pruning it on a tree in the ground, it's going to grow from you pruning. So always keep that in mind, that pruning is actually always promoting growth, unless you've got it in a container where those roots are restricted.
So basically, they're pretty easy to care for, aren't they? They're fairly low maintenance.
Yeah, they're extremely simple. I mean, it sounds too simple to a lot of our customers, but I tell them, follow these basic steps for planting and care instructions. You don't want to plant it too deeply. You want to make sure it's not an area with boggy or wet feet. And you want to make sure, a few essential things are maintained there. But it's one of those plants that literally the least you do, the better. And you certainly can prune, you certainly can fertilize, but these things aren't required. I mean, these are extra steps you can do. But as long as you have a happy, healthy tree, and you're in a zone where you can grow this, it's going to do great.
And the other thing that we hadn't even talked about, we talked about trees, Japanese maples, because their shape, their size, their color, their diversity. One of the best things about Japanese maples is the root system. They have a shallow, non-invasive root system. I mean, you put a magnolia out there, it's going to crack your sidewalk. It's going to grow into your foundation of your house. A Japanese maple's shallow, non-invasive root system isn't going to do that, even in 150 years. And so it's amazing the root system that they have. And that's one of the most beautiful things because, I mean, you can put it anywhere and not have to worry about the plant causing damage out in your landscape, which is something you do have to be concerned about with something like a magnolia or other larger tree.
That's very interesting, actually. Yeah.
I always let people know because they have such a non-invasive root system just to be cautious of things that could compete with them. So they do really easily grow, but you wouldn't want to put a U really close to it or something that's going to have a big root ball. Make sure you're conscious of that. Or plants that are going to require more water. That maple wants to stay very well drained. They don't want to stay boggy. So you want to make sure you're not putting plants around the base that are going to require you to overwater your Japanese maple.
And that's also what makes them great in a container as well, isn't it, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it's that smaller size growth rate, easy to maintain, good drainage, and they're going to work in most spots. I mean, they're really an easy plant to grow. As long as you maintain a few basic things, it's just enjoy it.
And they'll grow to the size of bowl you put them in. So if you put them in a larger pot, you can get a larger tree out of that. But if you put them in a smaller pot, it's almost like a smaller bonsai, as long as you take those techniques that bonsai people do to keep them in a small container.
Being nurserymen, we'll carry some larger materials, larger plants to garden shows before. And I've had people say, well, how long can I keep this in a pot? And I'll have a really nice 20-year-old tree, and I'll show them, like, this tree's 20 years old, and it's actually never been in the ground. I mean, we're not doing a ton to maintain that. We're upsizing it. But, essentially you can keep one pretty happy in a container for a long time.
I feel a new obsession coming on. I've got to just say,
well, now you know where to buy them.
Yeah, exactly.
The Acer obsession is real. I'm telling you, we don't end up with we're really close to 1,500 varieties without having an obsession ourselves.
Hi, my name's Lucy Spencer. I'm a florist and flower farmer here in Suffolk in the UK. I'm a sustainable flower farmer and sustainable florist, trying very hard to save the planet in my own small way. And hello, and it's December, and welcome to my little corner of East Anglia, looking out on my frozen garden. It's currently -4. And I daren't venture down there to see what I've got left, what's keeled over in this cold snap. Now, there are two things I'd like to talk to you about. One is that you might have a list as long as your arm at this time of year, and you're probably feeling maybe a little bit stressed of all the things you've got to do before that big day. And I would like to help you by taking one thing off your list, and that is, please don't tidy your garden. Don't clear it up. It might look a right old mess, but leave it like that because it provides shelter for the poor little animals that are freezing cold at the moment, so they can nestle in under your compost heap or your pile of grass cuttings or whatever, a pile of something. All the little invertebrates are feeling a little bit warmer for being underneath vegetation. And also, if you leave your last year's flowers or this year's spent flowers, you don't cut them down, you might have some seed heads which will feed the finches or feed the birds that feed off seed heads, particularly teasels and other things. Just leave them on. I shall get those words out in a moment. And you can rest easy that you are being kind to the poor little creatures in your garden this winter. And one more thing before I go. If you're looking at your house and you're thinking, oh, I really like some colour and something to make it more festive, I will allow you to go and pick a bit of conifer or greenery, some holly. Get yourself some moss from the lawn or from underneath a dark wall where there's moss growing. Put it in a bowl or a little pot of some sort. Stick your holly and your conifer and your ivy in. Put a candle in the middle. Bob's your uncle. You have Bob's your uncle. Fanny's your aunt. You have a Christmas decoration, and also you have been kind to the planet, and it's cost you nothing. So with that, off I go. Have a lovely restful Christmas, looking at your wonderful garden that is shelter to all those animals and being sustainable with your Christmas decorations. See you soon. Bye.
It's time for your top 10 then. Give us your top 10 must-have Acer varieties for every type of garden.
Right. So I ask people this all the time. So I'm put on the spot. It's like picking your favorite child, right? Because we actually do a top 5 on our channel every Monday. And the funny part is the top 5 of the week. So we don't have to commit. So we're like, hey, here's our top 5 this week. That way that can change all the time, right? It's our top favorite flowering plants of the week. So we don't have to go too committed there. We'll start at number 10. I've got a list here, and we'll just go down with some of our personal favorites. Sure. And this is mine and Tim's kind of combined list, but Maiku Jaku, often referred to as Aconitifolium sometimes. I think there's some plants have a Japanese name and a Latin name, but Maiku Jaku, you'll see it as Aconitifolium as well. It's an Acer japonicum. It's going to look similar to the one behind us here on this shot a little bit. Excellent tree for fall color. It goes through some amazing ranges. The name Maiku Jaku translates as dancing peacock. And really nice, especially when it hits that fall display of oranges and reds. It kind of just looks like peacock leaves or peacock foliage or feathers there on the foliage, but amazing plant to be growing.
Yeah, and the japonicums give good fall color. And one thing we've been learning about some of the japonicum varieties like Maiku Jaku is their fall color isn't temperature based. It's based on, they start their fall color based on the length of the day changing going into fall. And so that's one that will put on a fall color display for a very long period of time. Mm-hmm. And so you can get some excellent fall color. You know, you said you had a tree that wasn't giving you good fall color. You could replace it with something like Maiku Jaku, also known as Aconitifolium, and you'd probably get an amazing fall color display that you'd really love.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right. So number 9, we've got Osakazuki. And this is another great fall color Japanese maple. This is a green aminum. It makes a larger tree, but aminum means it's got a little bit larger leaf for a Japanese maple. Mm-hmm. And this tree just gives you a good summery feel during the summer. I mean, in Japanese gardening, people love those green Japanese maples because they really give a lively summery feel. Mm-hmm. But then when the fall hits, you have just an amazing fall color. And that's where you get that dynamic contrast from the seasons. And that fall color, when it comes into play, really is just a bright, vibrant, almost the color of my shirt red. I mean, just
Osakazuki's classic for that brilliant red, an older cultivar from Japan, so it's kind of been around for forever. Tim and I are both former presidents of the North American Maple Society. We're involved in the Maple Society International too, and so a great group of people. But that was one we do a Maple of the Year, and that was one that won the Maple Society Tree of the Year as well, because always great in everybody's garden for fall color.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Next up, we'll go with some classics that we can find on both sides of the pond here. The Sangukaku, that's the classic coral bark variety. You're going to get great red stemming with that. And that's one that's going to be a lush, kind of a bright green in the spring, kind of an underrated fall color. It's got yellows with splashes of red in it in the fall. But really where we love the coral barks is those winter months. Everything's kind of drab in the garden, and the coral barks, so that spark of color going on. They've got nice red stemming going on. And, you know, they're going to give you so much more than like a red twig dogwood. You're going to get all 4 seasons interest out of a Japanese maple. So it's going to bring just so much more to the table.
Mm-hmm. So next up, I've got Seiryu. And Seiryu is an upright green lace leaf. It's one of the fastest growing Japanese maples, but it's extremely heat tolerant. It's one of the most heat tolerant Japanese maples we do too. And so it's a tree that can go in almost anybody's garden because it can handle the sun, it can handle the shade, and it makes a larger Japanese maple fairly quickly. So if someone's looking for a larger tree in their landscape, it's an excellent one. But I've also seen it done as containers. I've seen it done as bonsai. Mm-hmm. And so it can really be trained into almost any shape or form. But it's one of the very few lace leaves that's a true lace leaf that has that upright form to it.
And this one's so fast growing, you can use it to shade out your other plants. So if you have other maples that may be needing more shade in that garden, this one's one that's going to get out there so quickly. If you're a maple collector, it's going to protect some of your other plants, maybe some of those white and pink varieties that you need a little bit more shade under. It's a great plant to have in the landscape because it's going to get out there, make a nice size specimen. And that lace leaf foliage just gives it something extra in an upright tree. It gives it a real open, airy appearance to it. So really cool.
I love the lace leaf foliage. Whenever I walk by one, I have to kind of run my fingers through it. Like the texture is just so lovely.
So next up, we've got Orangiola. Now, this is another one. I think it was Maple Society Tree of the Year. I think it's won some Rural Horticultural Awards as well. It's a great plant. It's once been around for a while. I like this one. It's another lace leaf. So this is going to be a low kind of cascading umbrella type. It's one that gets so many unique colors in it. Like it's a red at first, but it gets so much more nuanced than that. It's a red lace leaf that has a million different shades in it in the early spring of kind of red and orange. Now, I love it for its midsummer interest. It's a good one for a sunnier spot. In summer, it actually gets greener, older growth with then kind of orange to pink new growth tips to it. And so it's a really interesting kind of summer interest for one. We think of them as spring and fall displays, but I love this one in the summer. And then it gets a real nice orangey hue to it in the fall as well. But another great candidate for container gardening or low areas.
Everyone loves Japanese maples for their ever-changing beauty, and that's exactly what Orangeola does. I mean, it just constantly keeps putting on lots of colors of orange red to maroon that's fading to an emerald green. And when you take a photo of that or go up and look at it, you see so many different shades of red. And that's one of the reasons for a red lace leaf. It's a fantastic one, but it's also one with that heavily cascading habit. So it also makes a great container basket. So if you're looking for those hanging baskets we were talking about before,
That's the one.
Orangeola is a fantastic one for a weeping red lace leaf in a hanging basket.
I've totally got a feeling that very soon we're going to see Michael's reels on Instagram with like maples hanging baskets and all kinds of things.
Hey, it's easy to do. So we'll pick kind of a type here. Since you said Ryusin, we threw that one in here. We do a whole Pendulous Treasure series at our nursery, so they're kind of like babies of the Ryusin Ryusei style. Those have that weeping habit, like that one you showed the picture of. Ryusin that's how it's sold typically in America. I think in Japan the same plant's typically Ryusei, but great plant with that tough as nails foliage too.
And the reason I like Ryusin is it's extremely hardy, can handle almost any sunlight condition, but it's a vigorous grower. And I've seen this tree not only done as hanging baskets, I've seen it trained up trellises and allowed to cascade over a walkway. I've seen this plant used in so many unique ways, almost as a ground cover. You don't allow it you don't stake it up.
Yeah, that's cool.
You just let it crawl across the ground, almost like a little carpet with a Japanese maple.
Yeah.
So it's a fun one to play with and to shape and train in unique ways because it puts on a lot of vigorous growth with that heavily cascading habit.
We had a customer in upstate New York who had planted like 20 of them in one area and not staked them. So they had this dramatic effect of a carpeted area, but it was basically a low growing Japanese maple, but it was Ryusin, and they'd used that to create this aesthetic. But instead of staking it, they just let them get wide and kind of fill the area. It was really cool.
Wow, I bet that looked amazing.
So if I'm correct, that is number 6. We need 4 more.
We're still on the spot.
So next up, we've got Fire Glow. And this is a bright red that is fairly heat tolerant. It's a good mid-size tree, typically going to end up reaching about 2.5 meters in 10 years. And it's an amazing plant. The reason I like it is because it gives you everything you love about Bloodgood, which is a classic Japanese maple. But if you plant it with morning sun or afternoon sun hitting it, you get a glowing effect that happens coming through the leaves. And so it gets a little bit of orange red to the backside of the leaf. And when the sun hits it, it gets that fiery glow where it gets its name of Fire Glow.
Yeah, a little more heat tolerant as well, and not quite as large as Bloodgood. I mean, it's a little slower grower. It's kind of that medium-sized tree, and it makes a really good shape on its own without a lot of shaping. I mean, you're going to kind of get what you wanted, the quintessential Japanese maple shape with that one. It's going to be a nice upright, fills out nicely. But it's not one that it doesn't get too big too quick, so it fits a lot of landscapes for people as well.
And is a great container.
I think Fire Glow might be my container maple. I think that's the one I'm going to go for on the balcony.
Awesome. So now we're going to get tricky because we're going to name a few of ours. So we've avoided naming any of ours so far.
Go for it.
Things are easy. Next, we have one called Firefly, and this is a reticulated variegated one we named, and it has kind of reticulated veining throughout every single leaf. So every single leaf has an etching. It's like a light etching. It's Acer palmatum Firefly. Really cool plant. We've named here at our nursery, and it just brings one of the most dramatic variegated forms of a Japanese maple.
And this plant will be coming available in Europe fairly soon. I know that there are some nurseries that have it and they're propagating it. So, just give it a little bit and you'll start finding this in a lot of the garden centers in Europe and throughout the UK as well. Firefly just has one of the most dynamic, most contrasting of that reticulated style variegation of any of the Japanese maples. And it constantly gives you some just crazy variegation throughout the year. Really awesome plant.
Yeah. So we'll throw in, we marked out Makawi Etsubusa since you said we couldn't use that one. So we'll throw in Japanese Princess here. And that's a bit of a one-off because it's a variation of Makawi Etsubusa. That one is one that is kind of a pink form of the Macaulay Etsubusa. It's a dwarf, great for container. Again, tightly layering, tight shingling kind of habit to it, and very, very compact. So it's one that's going to give you the same aesthetic as the Macaulay Etsubusa, but more spring color. It's going to be a nice, really bright pink.
And so it's a great container plant. It has a little more curled leaf. The leaf sort of twists more than Macaulay Etsubusa, where Macaulay Etsubusa has a very flat leaf. But they're excellent small little dwarfs for people's landscapes and gardens or containers, obviously bonsai as well. It's one of our favorites because it's everything you love about Macaulay Etsubusa, but then you get some spring interest as well with their unique spring color.
We often use Macaulay Etsubusa as kind of a catch-all when people ask us what our favorites are, because there are some different offspring from it. So you can use Macaulay, which is the green form that has a orangey red fall color. But then you can say, oh, but also all of its offspring. This was a seedling from it that's orange, and this is a seedling from it that's red. And
this is a seedling that's yellow, and one that's bronze colored.
It's an area where we do a lot of selecting here at our nursery in Macaulay Etsubusa offspring.
That's very cool.
Cool.
And then lastly, our number one is one that's going to be coming pretty popular in Europe pretty soon. We actually got contacted by some people who were wanting to patent it in Europe, and we said, we just wanted to get out there. And this is Acer oliveranum hot blonde. And this is a hybrid Chinese maple with a Japanese maple that we've introduced here at Mr. Maple.
Yeah, we're always looking when we're selecting to kind of give our plants some superpowers. And so the Acer oliveranum are a little bit more heat tolerant than some other Japanese maples. They're from hotter zones in China. So this is a hybrid between a Japanese maple and a Chinese maple, to get too geeky on you, but it gives it a little bit more sun tolerance. And this one's a neon yellow in the spring, is where it gets the name hot blonde. And then it goes to a bold, like pink red in the fall. So really excellent grower too. It's a fast plant, and it's one of the better ones I think we've selected here at our nursery.
And it's also a bright yellow that can handle the sun. Typically, a lot of those yellow types need a lot of protection from the hot afternoon sun. And this is one that is extremely resilient and extremely heat tolerant and is a good grower. I mean, we say that it's yellow in the spring, but it's yellow in the spring etched in an orange red.
Wow.
And, I mean, it's just an exquisite Japanese maple that is very unique and very different. And like Matt said, since it's a hybrid with the Chinese maple, it's got that extra superpower of being more heat tolerant.
Hey, what I want to know is, I know you've called it hot blonde because it's a beautiful yellow color, but is it actually named after something or someone else?
Yeah, I got extra credit. I named this one after my wife. I told her I named it tree after her. So I got a little extra credit with this one. We collected it here and we joked about the name, and then we said that I like that. So we actually have a whole hot series. We have like hot sauce and hot tamale that go with it, but the hot blonde is the first one of the group. And yeah, I got extra credit for naming after my wife, Amy. So
I love that.
Well,
I love that.
As you were going along, I wrote the list of them. So when we actually release your episode, it'd be really great if you guys have got pictures of some of those. Then then people can really put an Acer to the description there. So yeah, that's a really cool list. Thank you so much.
I feel like completely inspired about Acers or maples, whatever, now than ever before. Like, I had this vision in my mind from my balcony that I wanted this big arching Acer, and that all went wrong this summer, as I've said like numerous times, because clearly I'm not over it yet. But I feel completely compelled, to have a few Acers up here on the balcony, because I think it would look absolutely wonderful. And I picked Fireglow from your list of 10 for sure. And now I'm going to have to go away and look at all the photographs of all the others and see which one I think would fit as well. And I'm really excited. So thank you both so much. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you and just hear your passion and experience and all of the knowledge that you have as well, and all about your travels as well in Japan too.
Oh, thanks for having us on. We really appreciate the chance just to be crazy plant people. We're passionate about this. It's kind of our life's passion as Japanese maples. So we'll do anything we can to talk about them. We really appreciate the chance.
Cool. It's our honor and privilege to be on here. We really appreciate it. We're two tree geeks from Western North Carolina who fell in love with Japanese maples, and somehow y'all found us to have us on your podcast, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. No worries.
I think it's really amazing to always do what you're passionate about, and I think the opportunities just arise because you're passionate about what you do, and you kind of don't even have to search them out. And I truly believe that if you love what you do, if you're fully immersed in it, things will happen. And that's clearly for you. You know, you've been traveling to Japan and doing podcasts, and you've grown your business. And let's face it, plant lovers love to talk about plants, don't they? And it's just a lovely kind of space to be in. You know, you're helping the environment, you know, and doing good things for nature, and just being really passionate about it. And I think that all comes across just, you know, as you're talking, and you're bouncing off each other wonderfully with no fighting between siblings. So this is great.
Got along well today. Hey, it's a small world, but when you get into plants, it's amazing how much smaller the world gets. Like you plant, you know, it's a small world anyway, but then when you get into plants, it's such a small like community, and it's such a fun community. I mean, what other community do you go into where people welcome you into their nursery and teach you everything? And it's an interesting industry to be in. It's such a fun industry, and for the most part, it's so giving. Like everybody's so interested in sharing and learning. And I'm always, you know, just filled up with that. It's amazing. You can go to Japan and people are equally excited to talk about this. The Netherlands, the UK, everywhere you go, it's like, it's such a fun thing. I mean, it's a small world, but when you get into plants, right, it gets even smaller. Like everybody's kind of a tight community. Yeah,
literally. Like I saw you at Charlotte Garden Club, invited you on the podcast, but you and Michael both know the same person in Holland or whatever. Like, you know, you've met them. Isn't it funny? Like it's just one big circle of plant lovers.
I have to say, like traveling in Japan, I've traveled in Japan myself, and you sometimes in growers and nurseries where they don't speak English, but we could always communicate through the plants, whether that was the Latin name or whether that was purely, you know, marveling over the same plants and sharing that joy. So I feel like we have a special language as well as plant lovers.
Oh, it's so interesting. We were at a 300-year-old Japanese maple nursery in Japan, and our friend came up and the older statesman of the nursery kept, you know, coming up to talk to us, and our friend was like, "Hey, why do you like these guys so much?" And he said, "I've been on their website and they have nice things to say about me." So we were floored that this guy had been on our website. We were just blown away. We're like, "Wow, okay, now we really feel cool that he found us." But he had read where we'd give him credit for his introductions, and he appreciated that. So he was extra welcoming. So
that's cool.
That's really cool. And just before we finish up, I've just got to say that Michael, you look like you're on an aeroplane. So when your camera is turned, like you can just see the window, you know, like you have a little window if you're sitting on a window seat, and then the light coming in, your screen looks like you are on a flight right now. Anyway, where can our listeners find out more about Mr. Maple, like your socials and website and everything?
Oh, I really appreciate you asking. First and foremost, MrMaple.com is our website. That's an easy way to find us. I laugh because we always have the .com on our thing, and it has a leaf in between, so people then say, "What's your website?" It's like MrMaple.com. But we also do a podcast, and you can find it under the Mr. Maple Show. And then we do a YouTube show every single day. So we're kind of nuts about that stuff. So every single day we air a YouTube show and have a premiere, and we've been growing our channel a lot. It's just the Mr. Maple Show on YouTube. But we're 7 days a week there. So yeah.
Michael's like already on there. Look, I could just see him typing. He's like, I have to look right now. Every single day. That is passion. That is.
We do question videos to help people garden. We do cultivar highlights to talk about specific varieties.
Yeah.
We do weekly releases on our website. So that's one of our days. One of our days is just a video of our podcast. And then, you know, we constantly are putting more and more unique material on there, from walking through our greenhouses to touring local gardens and talking about the Japanese maples and plants within.
We do other plants beside Japanese maples at our nursery, to be clear, but we're kind of nutty about that.
Sorry, I played the
video. He really did look us up right away. Yeah,
of course.
But yeah, it's a blessing. It's something we're fun and passionate about. It really gives us a good outlet to hopefully we can get back to Japan and do some cool videos there, and get back over to the UK. I would love to get back to Western Bird Arboretum. That's one of my favorite gyms. I got to travel there in 2010 with the late great Peter Gregory, and he did the third and fourth edition of the book Japanese Maples, and just one of my favorite people ever. It was one of the best experiences I ever had in maples, was getting to go to Westonbirt and to walk around there with him. He was the curator there for many years, and that's one of my favorite experiences ever.
That's cool. But I also see you've done some work with Mariah as well, right? Because she was advertising your Acers on Instagram yesterday, right?
Oh, nice. Yeah, maybe.
I've seen it. You'll have to look it up, Ellen.
Oh, I have no idea what
Yeah. We did
that's
some
like.
memes. We used to do Mr. Maple Meme Monday. It took me a second to catch on. Yeah. We had the All I Want for Christmas is for you to subscribe to the podcast Mariah Carey meme. It took me a second to think about it. But yeah, we do a Meme Monday. We throw out tons of goofy memes sometimes about plant stuff too. So.
But that's cool. It's like you're embracing different ways to connect with people as well, which is also inspirational, not just your plant knowledge, but the new ways that you're using the marketing tools that we have in front of us. So
it makes it a lot of fun to us. I mean, the interaction is what we love about it. And one of the things, we love about the plants are the stories behind them. So the people stories. So one of our goals is to tell the stories about the nurseryman who selected this, or why it's important, and kind of talk about the people who found some of these plants or bred them or found them and things like that. That stuff really appeals to us as well.
Yeah.
It's important to preserve a lot of this history because a lot of this history is disappearing on these plants. People don't know where they came from. They've got this beautiful tree in their yard, but they don't know the history behind it. And when you start to learn the history behind that plant takes on a whole new meaning, because every plant has its story. And we try to do our best to preserve that history.
Yeah.
And you feel more connected, don't you? Just as a human, you feel more connected when you understand what's going on around you in nature and understanding, like you said, the history of that tree, where it's come from. I think it's amazing, and I absolutely love what you're doing. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Like, it's been really, really inspiring. And I've thoroughly enjoyed the backdrop as well. Just looking, I feel quite relaxed. Like, I feel invigorated, but also relaxed just looking at the colour behind you on the wall too.
Hey, it's our pleasure. Thank you all so much for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Tony.
And we run the Suffolk Jungle Room, which is a houseplant haven and cafe in the village of Metfield near Harleston in Suffolk. It's been a busy month, hasn't it, Tony?
Yeah, really busy. Great build up to Christmas. Done some events, festive feasts.
The festive feasts were amazing. We got a license for the 3 nights that we ran them, so we could sell Christmas cocktails and alcohol and beer, wine, all of those things. And we had evening events with loads of Christmas music, people having a feast in the Suffolk Jungle Room cafe, surrounded by houseplants. It was glorious. We loved it. It means that next year we can hire out the space for private events, and we look forward to welcoming loads of people into the cafe for, I don't know, your birthday party, your retirement, just because you love it and you want to have all your mates there, anything. So please go on our Instagram and have a little look. If you want to hire the space, it's there. But we've got exciting news for next year, haven't we?
We have indeed. We're looking to partner up with a place called the Be Well Barn.
The Be Well Barn. We have a second site on the horizon. It's in a place called Redlingfield, which is another in the middle of nowhere rural location in Suffolk. Massive, eco-friendly, like Grand Design style barn build, and it's a spa barn and a fitness centre and a really massive cafe. And we're moving in there.
And a little bar, coffee lounge area upstairs as well.
That's it. And we're going to fill it with plants.
We're going to fill it with plants, obviously.
And we're going to have a second Suffolk Jungle Room in 2023. I don't think I could be more excited, could you?
No, definitely not. Can't wait.
Yeah, so we know that come January, our life is going to get doubly busy. You looking forward to it, Tony?
Yeah, I can't wait.
What are you looking forward to most?
New menu, like a slightly different twist on the menu, because we've got a bigger kitchen area. I'm going to have a bigger oven. I'm going to have more hobs, so we can expand the menu to more bigger, better dishes.
Yeah, and I guess to cater for the kind of clients that are going to be coming into the Be Well Barn, if you've been there doing a really cool like yoga class or spin class or something like that, you don't want to be ruining it too much afterwards with your lunch choices. So, slightly healthier options.
Not creamy Stilton mushrooms.
Well, they might still be on the menu. Everyone loves a creamy Stilton mushroom. I'm looking forward to putting more plants out. All the plants we can possibly get into the Be Well Barn in Redlingfield. But we are looking forward to starting 2023 on a high note. Thank you for listening to our little section on this podcast this year. We've really enjoyed it, and we'll see you in 2023.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Series 9 is brought to you with Lava Light. Derived from volcanic deposits, Lava Light can help you to nourish and protect your plants all year round. The collection comprises 8 different horticultural growing media and pest control products. So why not look out for their colourful packs, either online or in your local gardening store?
Hey, have you got chilly knees, Michael?
Yeah? No. Oh, you're convinced I'm going to get cold by the end of this, but I'm not like... Do you know, like, to have your arms exposed when it's 0 degrees is not nice. But legs are a really different story. Like, I don't know about you. I guess your legs aren't hairy, or are they?
They might be right now.
And I just been to my local CrossFit, and to be honest, I'm in shorts, and it's really okay. I feel invincible.
Is anyone looking at you like you're weird as they walk past?
I just look like a fitness person, really, which is, you know.
You'll be getting those things on Instagram soon where they send you reply to fitness model, DM us that fitness model. I get them on mine and it makes me laugh so much.
You either get those or weird jewellery and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
What's that all about? Yeah.
I know.
I had to go to the shop for some melon. You can probably relate to that, can't you, Melon?
I'm here.
Oh dear.
What type of melon? Because actually, I have like a dilemma over melon. I do love melon. I realise that people call me that by nickname, you especially, but I do actually love melon, especially watermelon. And then there's cantaloupe melon, but they're my favourites. But then when you come here, there's like rows and rows of different melons, and I kind of stand and look, and it's so expensive here as well.
It's the orangey one.
Yeah, I like that one. It's really sweet.
Yeah.
That's the cantaloupe.
No, I think that's pale green, isn't it, inside?
Maybe they're different types, because even the ones I grew on the allotment this year, they were cantaloupe and they were orangey.
Yeah. Because at the moment, like, my partner has an obsession. It was mango for a few months, but now it's just like, I could get some. And the worst thing is, like, it's these packets where they're already cut up as well, and I don't think he realizes like what the real melon looks like. Because when he was obsessed with mango, I actually bought him a real mango, and he was like, "What is it?"
No,
he's been eating for 6 months. Oh, sorry, Ellen, I got a whooping cough. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll tell you what, you shouldn't be sitting outside in the cold with your knees out then, should you?
All right, my mum. I've just been on a sushi making course on the weekend.
So I saw your Instagram stories and I thought it looked really, really cool.
And they also had options for people like you.
People like me.
People with... Yeah, it was great.
You mean vegan options?
Yeah. No,
Thank you. Yeah,
it was
you.
cool. Really cool to like learn a new skill, but it's really like, I don't know, because had I been on a course for a while? I can't remember. I know you're learning loads of stuff at the moment, but sometimes when you then get back to learning stuff, you realise it takes a lot. It's harder when you get older. Is that right or not?
Honestly, I had this conversation genuinely with my husband the other day, and I am a night owl. Yeah, as you know, we've said it before on the podcast. We even talk about it in Ego. I'm a night owl, but I've been doing some training, which is really the core of my whole winter period is about training. And by the time it gets to evening, I am exhausted. Like my brain has worked so hard, and I have to read things over a few times before it completely solidifies. And it's a different experience to learn when you're a little bit older. Dare I say? It's true.
What do you think is your best way that you learn? Have you detected that?
Doing. So I if I have an exam, I'm great at cramming, and I would if I try to learn it for weeks running up to it, I'll forget half of it. So I might as well wait until closer to the date and then cram.
Yeah.
That's the best way, but visual or doing it. So like if it's, with gardening, for example, if you if you read it, then that's great, you learn it. But I only really remember it if I do it. So what you were doing was great because you've actually been doing the activity of making your sushi. So you should remember it, right?
No, but also like when you're shown something, then you have to do it.
Yeah.
That's different to doing it as you do it. Different to learning it as you do it. So like
it's added pressure, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's really bizarre because like she instructed really well and we were all attentive and I was kind of like, right, I've got this. And then you sit down ready to do it and you're like, oh, what? It's really, and then
true. I get it.
Like bobbing around helping people. And it was at that point that I was then getting it as she was explaining it as I went. And then I absolutely knew it. But I just need to do it as I go. So yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
We have these. So one of the training courses I'm doing is hypnotherapy, and once a week we have these practice labs, but it's on Zoom, of course. So you go on Zoom, and then you get put into breakout rooms, and you're with obviously people who you don't know, and you have to practice certain like terms and words and all kinds of different things based upon what they've just shown you. And I am not a panic. Like I don't panic or get anxious, but I have literally panicked and gone, what did they say? Oh my God, I've forgotten all about it. And then I've been the person in the room going, well, someone else can go first because I daren't go first.
Have you got a notepad, dear?
Yeah, but still, it puts you on the spot.
Affirmation on the front for Christmas.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, because everybody's talking about the snow, and I'm seeing all the snow pictures. Have you got snow where you are at the moment?
Well, let's put it this way. I haven't been inhibited when I've drove somewhere. I think that's how you judge. But it's like, you see all these people like on the motorways, like really being stuck for like 8 hours or something. It's really, I don't know if but I did laugh at one. Well, I didn't laugh, but although I guess it's really easy to like be like, well, how'd you get in that problem? Because someone like had gone to the local pub and then got caught on the motorway, and I was like thinking, well, did you go out and know that you were gonna? But I think actually I think it came by surprise for a lot of people,
right? Okay,
even for the forecasters. Just like a storm in 87. Oh,
is it not like the end of the one that's in upstate New York at the moment? Like there's a big thing sweeping over there. I don't know either. But I've seen some very beautiful snow photographs online in the UK.
But to be very honest with you, Ellen, I don't think we would accept American snow here. I don't think it would go down that well, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think you have any choice.
Not having it.
Well, it's sunny here anyway. It's pretty cold, but it's sunny. It is a pretty chilly time, but it's bright skies.
Is snow likely there? Yeah.
People have. I've been here for 3 years nearly, and most people will say we don't really get snow, but I've been here in deep snow that's happened each year in February, I think. So basically I brought the snow from England here, but it is we've had snow. Snow. It doesn't last like really long, maybe only a couple of days, but last year it was pretty heavy. I like the snow. I like it. There's just drama of everything in the UK. So when it's like hot weather, there's lots of drama. Now with the cold weather, there's then drama. And they're always like, why are we not set up for snow? Well, because you don't get snow that often. And if it's kind of just a few days a year, kind of then you just have to manage it. Why would you change a whole infrastructure to deal with snow that you only got 3 times a year? Like that would be surely. I don't know. You might not even get it 3 times a year, you know. I mean, that might change in the future. Who knows? But I get that. And the sআছে as here. People always joke that everything closes down when there's snow here, but you might get it once, like 1 day or 2 days a year, if that.
But like, why is that a big deal? Like, if there's inclement weather, then things close. Get over it, you know? I don't know. Just everyone's always got so much drama.
Get over it and get out in your shorts. That's what you've got to say. What are you doing over the next few days? Tell us something cool.
Just kind of admin days, really. And then I'm doing something on Thursday. What's that? Oh, I can't remember what it is.
Oh, why did you ask me this, Ellen?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You should have asked me when I got interesting stuff to tell you.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that. What's the date today? Thursday. Oh, I tell you what we're going to be doing tomorrow. I'm looking literally through my diary right now. Is I'm going to do a distance Reiki session on you.
Yeah, but you said it's not on the internet, or what?
No, we don't. No, so I'm actually gonna email you later on with a list of things. It's a 30-minute session, like a list of things to do, which is really just like relaxing and like tuning in. And then sorry,
you'll be there.
Well, I'll be here doing it, but we don't have to be online to do it.
But you'll message me.
I'm going to email you a list of the time and like a list of things to do. And then at that time, I'll text you and say, are you ready? And you'll be like, yeah, I'm ready. And then I'm going to send you distance Reiki from here. So it's energy. It's just manipulating energy. That's all. And like channeling energy to your body to clear out your blockages and heal, you know, with the universal energy that is Reiki. And I've had it done, and it was pretty amazing. And to be honest, afterwards, I just thought, I had a nice chill half an hour, and it wasn't really until like the few days after that where I realized what happened really did happen.
Really?
Like,
well up, defo.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll see how it goes.
That's cool. Oh, I think just before that, I have I did this Randox. I'm really into testing everything at the moment, Ellen. They do this hand test where they test like the blood, your pressure, blah 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 blah, and you have you get all the results on a really cool printout, about 12 pages, and you also get a consultation with a doctor. So I've got that tomorrow, but I've also sent off for this epigenetics kit that I was banging on to you about, and also the biome kit, the one where you in the tube. It was tricky, but maybe I need to use a spatula. That's going to be very hard psychologically, I have to say. But
yeah, it's
when
not
I
nice.
Test, it's amazing how hard it is to spit 10 mil. What?
I'm interested to see what the results are. Maybe you have a dry mouth or something and you can't spit enough for 10 mil.
Well, it was first thing in the morning, but they said to do it first thing in the morning. So, yeah, don't know.
I think it's amazing how technology is allowing us, like everyday people, you know, to see what's going on in our bodies and what our genes are predisposed to and stuff. I think that's really cool.
Well, it's weird how this stuff was always possible, but it kind of wasn't accessible, which is kind of like, why did you keep us from it?
Now we can know so much more. Now we could know so much more, but also like don't get hung up on it, because another thing that like you mentioned the other day and that I've spoken about in some of my talks is that whilst your DNA and your genes like can tell you what you're predisposed to or what you're more likely to get, be, act, like all of those kind of things, you can perhaps influence them as well, which is pretty amazing. Like they're finding out that environmental factors can change, you know, your DNA, which is pretty epic, really. But then when you think about it, surely that's true anyway, because how did we evolve otherwise? Like, I don't get that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like new science, but also how did we evolve if we couldn't change to our environment?
But also on a basic level, you know, knowledge is power, really. Yeah. So, you know, just having that way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
Spitting in a tube and on a Petri dish.
we now have to mark this podcast explicit content because of that.
You could bleep over my Petri dish.
No, I don't want to come anywhere near your Petri dish, thank you.
I love that I still make you laugh after all these years.
Yeah, you do. Or maybe I'm just pretending. But this evening I am doing a talk at Charlotte Gardening Club. I'm going to do a talk about house plants for well-being, which is a new talk for me. So usually I do plants and nature for well-being, like the overall holistic approach. But this is specifically house plants for well-being. So that's a new one.
Yeah.
I'll get that written this afternoon.
Do you have a PowerPoint, or it's mostly talking?
Yeah. So they requested some like slides first, so I put together some slides like with some photographs. But really, I don't want to put a lot of words on there. They're just photographs to back up what I'm saying. So I really do kind of need to write that talk this afternoon.
I used to cringe at having the words, but also saying the words. But I find that when you have the words on the screen, because people listen in very different ways, and a lot of people are reading, and so you've got that balance. But I'm never reading out what's on the sheet. But obviously, you've got the two options there, and especially when I'm doing talks in a foreign place as well, because even if you've got data, then some people might prefer to read than listen as well. So I was thinking having it written down as well. I was like, it feels like cheating.
I know, right? So I've got the slides which are mainly photographs, but there are some words, and then I've written out like headlines for each slide, and I am going to have to take those notes with me and use them because I haven't done this talk before, and so I'm definitely not worried about having something there to prompt me in any way. But I'm looking forward to that. But then, there are definite accents and pronunciations of things that are different here. So and when I don't know why, when I do a talk, I put on my best English accent so that it's like crossing your T's and dotting your I's. But I'm going to sound like royalty this evening.
I remember when I was doing HSN, like TV in the US, when you say the word, they told me to stop using the word pot, because obviously pot is not really pot.
It's not pot.
Container, yeah. And all the way with dirt and stuff like that.
I actually asked that question. I was like, can I say soil or does it have to be dirt? Like, is dirt soil or soil dirt? Like, how do we do this? And then also pronunciations of just some plants, like pot, like you were just saying about pots. It's like pot, like we would say pothos, but they say pothos. And so it's like those kind of like, they're not even using pot in the word in the pothos like houseplant name. So like all these little things which will come up, but I'm just going to have a little bit of a laugh of it, really,
Nice. Ooh, wow. Excited for you.
Thanks. That would be good fun. But before we finish up gossiping, I have to just ask you, are your knees cold yet?
No, not really.
Oh, damn it. I'm going to keep talking then.
Well, I'm on 6%, so you can't talk for that long.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Fair enough. All right.
Absolute pleasure. I have to be honest with you. Yeah.
I was going to say it's always a pleasure, but I feel like you never expect it's going to be. But then afterwards you say, oh, I really enjoyed that.
Sure. No, but
anyway. We should just mention our Christmas episodes coming up, because we've got a few cool episodes coming up to finish off the series.
I'll leave that to you then.
Oh, thank you so much. So we've got some New Year's resolutions from guests of the podcast, and Christmas wishes coming up as well. We've also got a really cool episode with Mr. Maple talking about maples or Acer trees coming up, which is really good fun too.
That's
and then
this week, isn't it?
Yeah. So we've got like this week.
Yeah.
This week, Mr. Maple with the Acers. Have I got my weeks muddled up again? I do it every single time we talk. And also, before we done this gossip, we also went through the schedule, and I still get it wrong anyway. So anyway, yes, we've got lots of Christmas stuff coming up, and Christmas news and everything to round off this series of the podcast.
Yeah.
So,
ooh, cool.
All about Christmas.
Brilliant. Well, I'm resting for a time now.
And I realise that your battery might run out also, so I'm going to go now.
Thank you.
All right.
Utter pleasure.
Speak to you later.
Cool. See you later, darling.
Bye.
The music for the Plant-Based podcast is part of the song Grow by Mikey James, and our editor is Gareth Patch of Semi Echo.